Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donna Benton, and I want to welcome you all to our uh, today's webinar from the Center for Advancing Family Caregivers, Financial and Workplace Security. The goal of our center is to really advance the capacity of the Aging Network and all partner organizations so that we can support and address family, kinship, and tribal caregivers financial and workplace security, which come with a lot of challenges. And we want to develop a multifaceted learning collaborative that will help organize and assess and provide information about policies and opportunities that can help caregivers, family caregivers with financial and workplace security. Today's webinar is featuring the Milken Institute, and we're going to be looking at the state of caregiving in the workplace. Next slide, please. This is just to acknowledge who our funders are. We're being funded and supported through the Administration for Community Living. And we also want to give you some other housekeeping things. You're able to ask questions in our Q&A. So look at the bottom of your screen, and that's where you'll see Q&A, and we will be answering questions. We will also be leaving time at the end for questions and Q&A to our panelists. And so we hope that you are here for the whole time and are able to comfortably ask questions. The webinar is being recorded for a future time where we will be putting this on our website. And next slide, please. So for now, so that I don't take up too much of our speaker's time, I would like to introduce Priyanka Shah, who's the Associate Director for the Future of Aging, and Diane Tai, who's the Managing Director of the Future of Aging at the Milken Institute. We're really going to be looking at the insights from their recently released Milken Environmental Scan of Caregivers in the Workplace. Welcome, Priyanka and Diane.
Great. Thank you so much, Donna. Really appreciate your organizing this webinar for us. We're really excited to share our research and findings on one of the most pressing challenges that we know, supporting the 53 million Americans who are balancing work and family caregiving responsibilities. I know all of you on this call do understand the scope of this challenge, so we're hoping that today's findings will provide you with some insights about how employers can support their caregiving employees. Thank you so much. So, all right, great. So we're going to present findings from our 2025 report, Supporting Family Caregiving, How Employers Can Lead. And this research really represents about a year-long project where we did some analysis and stakeholder engagement to kind of come up with these insights that can help drive change. Next slide. Before we dive in, I'm just going to briefly tell you about the Milken Institute and our work at the Future of Aging. The Milken Institute is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank. We have offices domestically and abroad. We focus on, really on advancing innovative economic and policy solutions to improve lives around the world. And then specifically about our Future of Aging, the group that I lead and where Priyanka is leading our work on caregivers in the workplace. We advance healthy longevity and financial security for all through research convenings, multi-sector partnerships, and the elevation of high-impact policies and practices. And I want to emphasize the for all. It's really important because we really take a life course perspective to aging. Next slide. So this is our January 2025 report, where we're really addressing the reality of the 53 million Americans who are providing unpaid care to loved ones, 61% of them who are holding paid jobs. Family caregiving impacts financial stability, career progression, and overall well-being. And I want to mention that this project was made possible with our seed funder, Edward Jones, along with partners Genentech, Wealthy, Johns Hopkins Business of Health Initiative, and the U.S. News and World Report, who all share our commitment to supporting family caregiving. Our work is really building on the national strategy for supporting family caregivers that came out in the fall of 2022. It identified 350 federal government actions, along with over 150 actions that could be adopted by states, local governments, and the private sector. We homed in on the employer sector to really look at the critical role that they have in supporting family caregiving in the workplace, and then really put together what we saw as a unique contribution to the field, which are the first consensus-based recommendations relating to how employers can support family caregiving. So we're going to talk about how our findings really led to this roadmap memorialized in this report that identified the policies, practices, and benefits that are important as well as feasible to implement. I'm now going to turn to Priyanka to share our methodology and the whole impact that caregiving is having on employers.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start by sharing our research approach because the methodology is really what gives these insights their credibility. Last year, we conducted a rigorous 4-step process in partnership with the Hopkins Business of Health Initiative. We started with a literature review and consultations with subject matter experts, including Donna, to understand the current landscape. We then used the Delphi method, a research technique that builds consensus among experts, and surveyed participants across 3 critical stakeholder groups: former and current family caregivers, medium to large-sized employers, and caregiving researchers and advocates who bring policy and programmatic expertise. This gave us a 360-degree view of the challenges and solutions. We then conducted 2 rounds of surveys and 2 rounds of focus groups to dive deeper into the nuances and build consensus around the most impactful practices. Finally, we partnered with US News and World Report to create recognition for employers who are leading in this space by launching the inaugural Best Companies to Work For, Supporting Family Caregiving list alongside our research. In our Delphi study, we asked caregivers, employers, and experts to evaluate and rank the importance and feasibility of 31 potential policies across 5 key themes: flexible work arrangements, care support services, workplace caregiver education and support, caregiving leave policies, and employee tax advantage benefits and professional development. These policies were identified through our literature review and expert consultations, representing interventions that companies could actually implement. What we discovered through our consensus process is the foundation for everything we'll discuss today. 6 policies achieved what we call convergent alignment, meaning that caregivers, employers, and experts all rated them as critically important. Notice what rises to the top: remote work and flexible scheduling, paid leave, and free mental health counseling. But also notice awareness campaigns, which highlight the fact that even the best policies fail if employees don't know about them. What's particularly significant is that these consensus findings span multiple domains: time flexibility, financial support, healthcare, and communication. This told us that supporting caregivers requires a comprehensive, multifaceted approach. These consensus findings directly inform the strategic framework we'll explore later. But first, understanding why this matters so urgently requires examining the current impact on America's workforce. Starting with the demographic reality that's driving this crisis. We have 53 million Americans serving as unpaid family caregivers. That's 21% of the adult population. More than 60% of these caregivers are also working, trying to balance both responsibilities simultaneously. The numbers are staggering. 10,000 adults turn 65 every day. By 2030, we'll have 73 million people ages 65 and over, compared to 58 million just 3 years ago. 70% of these individuals will need some form of long-term care during their lifetime. Here's a particularly striking statistic that underscores the urgency. For the first time in US history, the number of working adults providing care to an older adult, 23 million, has surpassed the number providing care to preschool-aged children at 21 million. This represents a fundamental shift in American caregiving. And here's the policy reality that makes this even more challenging. The US remains the only industrialized country in the world without a national policy guaranteeing paid family leave. This means that employers are essentially on the front lines of addressing our caregiving crisis. This quote from one of our caregiver participants captures the emotional complexity and workplace stigma that elder care providers face. They're managing grief, role reversal, and complex systems while trying to maintain their professional responsibilities. The impact on work performance and career continuity is profound. 70% of caregivers report difficulties at work, resulting in missed promotions, reduced hours, or even leaving their jobs entirely. The Rosalind Carter Institute found that nearly 33% of workers have voluntarily left a position because of caregiving responsibilities. Why are they leaving? Well, 53% struggle to find affordable paid help, 44% can't find quality assistance, and 40% face challenges in meeting work demands. But here's the stark reality of the gender and equity impact. In 2023 alone, 1.9 million women aged 55 and older were driven out of the labor force because of family caregiving obligations. That figure is 7 times higher than the 270,000 men in the same age group. The equity implications are even more concerning for women of color who face compounded challenges. They're 67% more likely to reduce work hours and 45% more likely to turn down promotions due to caregiving responsibilities. The financial impact is staggering and often invisible to employers. Caregivers incur an average of $7,242 annually in out-of-pocket expenses, and these costs skyrocket for those caring for individuals with dementia, ranging from $9,000 to $12,000 annually. But the real shock is the long-term financial devastation. It's estimated that women providing unpaid care face a lifetime economic loss of approximately $295,000 based on inflation-adjusted figures. This translates to female caregivers having 25% less in retirement savings by age 65. To put this in perspective, family caregivers provided an estimated $600 billion in unpaid care annually as of 2021. Furthermore, research indicates that 1 in 4 caregivers have less than $1,000 in savings and investments compared to 1 in 7 non-caregivers. New findings reveal that nearly 64% of women in the sandwich generation, those caring for both children and aging parents, have seen their ability to save for long-term financial goals adversely affected by caregiving responsibilities. Geographic equity matters too. Rural caregivers spend 40% more on transportation to access care services. This financial stress doesn't stay at home, it follows employees to work, impacting their focus, decision-making, and ultimately their productivity. 84% of caregivers report that caregiving significantly impacts their stress levels. This heightened stress leads to measurably poor health outcomes, including elevated rates of anxiety, depression, and chronic conditions, such as heart disease and diabetes. Data from the CDC show that 20.4% of caregivers rate their health as fair or poor, nearly double the rate of non-caregivers. This health crisis has direct implications for employers. Family caregivers incur 8% higher medical costs, totaling $13.4 billion annually, and their overall health outcomes are 26% worse than those of the general population. It's a vicious cycle. Caregiving stress leads to health problems, which increase healthcare costs and reduce productivity, creating more financial stress for both employees and employers. Employers are also facing substantial costs. The estimated annual loss to companies due to decreased productivity, absenteeism, and employee turnover reaches $33 billion. Consider the replacement cost alone. Replacing a worker can cost between 6 and 9 months of an employee's salary. When you multiply that by the 33% of workers who have left positions due to caregiving responsibilities, the numbers become staggering. But it's not just turnover costs. Employers face higher healthcare premiums due to caregiver health issues, reduced talent pools as experienced workers leave the workforce, and the loss of institutional knowledge when seasoned employees can no longer maintain their professional commitments due to caregiving demands. This quote from another one of our caregivers highlights the fact that the business impact we just discussed will only intensify. As you know, America's health and aging care system is unprepared for what's coming. With healthcare worker shortages, and rising costs, we will see increased healthcare scarcity and inequality in elder care services. This means families will increasingly turn to informal caregiving, meaning more employees will face these challenges. This is why employer investment isn't just nice to have, it's essential for business survival. The business case for supporting caregivers has never been stronger, and the conditions for change have never been more favorable. Our research identified 5 key areas where employers can make meaningful impact. Recognizing employee financial wellness as a core responsibility, understanding the dual responsibilities many employees face, building a clear business case for caregiving support, supporting an increasingly diverse workforce, and understanding the unique demands of elder caregiving. These aren't separate initiatives. They're interconnected opportunities that create a comprehensive approach to supporting working caregivers. Most importantly, they create natural partnership opportunities for aging network organizations. The COVID-19 pandemic fundamentally changed how employers view their responsibility for employee financial wellness. Look at this transformation. In 2013, only 41% of employers felt some responsibility for their employees' financial wellness. By 2022, that number jumped to 97%. Even more striking, those feeling extreme responsibility increased from just 13% to 62% in less than a decade. What drove this dramatic change? The pandemic exposed how financial fragility affects every aspect of work performance. Employers witnessed firsthand how employees struggling with financial stress were less productive, more likely to be absent, and more prone to making mistakes. But here's what's particularly relevant to caregiving. Employees are responding to this shift with specific expectations. 80% now express the belief that their employers should play an active role in supporting their financial wellness, especially in relation to caregiving responsibilities. This represents a fundamental change in the employment relationship, from a purely transactional arrangement to one where employers recognize their role in supporting the whole person, including their family responsibilities. This shift in employer thinking creates an opening, but there's still a significant gap between intention and action when it comes to financial caregiving support. As we discussed earlier, family caregivers face significant out-of-pocket expenses, with costs jumping even higher for dementia care. But here's where it gets really concerning for employers. We know from the Federal Reserve that nearly 4 in 10 Americans are unable to cover an unplanned expense of $400. Now layer caregiving on top of that financial fragility. The situation is particularly dire for the sandwich generation. 21% of caregivers to elderly loved ones also have children under 18, creating dual caregiving pressures. And while typical caregiving creates financial strain, high-intensity caregiving situations can cost anywhere from $25,000 to over $85,000 annually, with some extreme cases exceeding $300,000. When employees are worried about covering caregiving expenses, when they're depleting their emergency savings, when they're making impossible choices between work advancement and family care, that stress follows them to work. It impacts their focus, their decision-making, their engagement, and ultimately their productivity. An example of how forward-thinking companies are addressing financial caregiving stress is Delta Airlines Emergency Savings Account program in partnership with Operation Hope and Fidelity Investments, which goes far beyond just offering a savings account. Delta provides employer-funded contributions up to $1,000 to jumpstart the emergency savings account. Employers are then able to make additional contributions through pre-tax payroll deductions. But the real innovation is the comprehensive financial wellness counseling and education that addresses immediate financial stability, intermediate planning, and long-term financial well-being. Ed's quote here captures the strategic thinking behind effective caregiver support. It's about creating conditions where employees can be fully present and productive at work. The opportunity becomes clear when we examine the disconnect between employer perceptions and employee reality. Many employers are unaware of the number of their employees who are caregivers. Only 35% of employers believe their employees are caregivers, while 56% of employees identify as caregivers. Even more concerning, while 89% of employers say they offer some level of benefits and support for caregivers, only 32% of employees can access them. This knowledge gap creates missed opportunities. 59% of employees can't identify available support, and 71% are unaware of caregiving benefits available to them. This communication and awareness gap has serious implications. Employers might be investing in caregiving benefits, but if employees don't know about them or can't figure out how to use them, the return on investment is hard to measure. This powerful analogy from one of our caregivers captures exactly why caregiver support isn't just compassionate policy, it's a smart business strategy that benefits everyone. The measurable business returns prove that this isn't about soft benefits. These are strategic investments with clear ROI. Companies that offer caregiving benefits have seen notable improvements in retention, engagement, and employee satisfaction. A Harvard Business School report demonstrated concrete results. Companies offering comprehensive caregiving benefits saw a 126% return on investment through reducing absenteeism, improving productivity, and lowering turnover. More than 30% of employees avoided taking a leave of absence or leaving the workforce altogether. From a recruitment perspective, the numbers are equally compelling. 81% of employers offering childcare benefits reported significant advantages in talent recruitment. Similarly, 76% found elder care benefits highly effective in attracting talent. And lastly, 20% of employees say they would consider switching jobs for an employer offering better family care benefits. Supporting caregivers is fundamentally about supporting a diverse and evolving workforce. While women still make up 65% of caregivers, caregiving responsibilities are now distributed almost equally across all 4 generations, from Gen Z to baby boomers. This generational shift has profound implications for employers. Gen Z caregivers feel particularly vulnerable, with 70% fearing that their caregiving responsibilities could lead to job loss, which is higher than any other age group. For millennials, we're seeing caregiving responsibilities assumed at the expense of professional development and long-term financial security. The equity implications extend beyond individual employees to organizational outcomes. Companies with comprehensive caregiver benefits see 23% higher retention of women in leadership roles, 31% more diverse management teams, and an 18% reduction in gender pay gaps. While caregiving spans all ages, elder caregiving presents unique challenges that require different approaches and create specific opportunities for aging network partnerships. Focusing specifically on elder caregiving reveals fundamentally different challenges requiring different employer responses. We saw some progress last year. 50% of employers are now prioritizing elder care benefits, up from 43% the previous year. However, there's still a perception and support gap. 80% of caregivers for older adults believe companies are more understanding of childcare responsibilities than elder care. The difference that employers need to understand is predictability. Childcare, while challenging, generally follows predictable developmental stages. Elder care, on the other hand, is reactive and crisis-driven. An employee might get a call that their parent fell and broke a hip, received a dementia diagnosis, or had a stroke. Suddenly, they're thrust into immediate decision-making about care levels, insurance coverage, and long-term planning, all while managing their own emotional response to their parents' declining health. Employees may suddenly need to understand Medicare versus Medicare Advantage, navigate Medicaid eligibility, coordinate with multiple healthcare providers, and make decisions about long-term care options, all typically during work hours. The emotional complexity of elder caregiving creates unique workplace challenges. There's a role reversal happening. Adult children find themselves become decision makers for parents who once cared for them. This psychological shift is emotionally challenging and often happens suddenly without preparation. On the practical side, elder care involves multiple systems navigation, healthcare, insurance, legal, financial, and social services coordination. There are also geographic challenges. While 73% live within 20 minutes of their care recipient, many manage care remotely during work hours. Crisis management is constant. Urgent calls, emergency decisions, and long-term uncertainty. Unlike parental leave with defined timeframes, elder caregiving can extend for years with varying intensity levels. Family dynamics add complexity. Recent research highlights critical needs: anticipatory grief support, relationship counseling, and caregiver health management as caregivers develop comorbidities due to stress. This emotional toll, grief, guilt, identity loss, follows employees to work and affects their performance in ways that traditional employee assistance programs may not address. Salesforce offers an innovative benefit for elder caregiving demand, an end-of-life doula program providing up to $2,000 per end-of-life circumstance to help employees and their family members access professional support during the process of saying goodbye to a loved one. Salesforce mirrors their birth doula benefit with end-of-life support, recognizing that employees need professional guidance throughout the full spectrum of life transition. By offering this support, Salesforce acknowledges that employees facing loss need more than bereavement leave. They need professional guidance to navigate one of life's most difficult transitions while also maintaining their professional responsibilities. Understanding these challenges brings us to the heart of our research, identifying specific actionable strategies that employers can implement to support their caregiving workforce. This insight from one of our caregivers captures why one-size-fits-all approaches don't work for caregiver support. Employees need different types of assistance as their caregiving situations evolve. Time and financial support create breathing room, but caregivers also need guidance to navigate complex systems. I'm now going to turn it back to Diane, who will walk us through the 6 strategic areas for employer action.
Thanks, Priyanka. I'm trying to turn my camera on. For some reason, it's not working. There it is. Okay, great. Thank you so much. If you can go to the next slide. So our research really identified 6 core opportunities for employer action that, when implemented, create a support system for employee caregivers. And so we're going to walk through each of these. Our findings are indicative of this complexity of caregiving and how it really does need a wide range of support. I see that my camera's not on. I'm sorry. I don't think, okay, it's weird. All right, I'm just going to keep going. So if you could go, okay, so the flexible work arrangements, I think one of the most critical findings we had was the need for flexible work arrangements that really go beyond just remote work. Our research revealed that 95% of caregivers prioritize flexibility. Really controlling when they work matters more than where they work. This insight led us to discover 2 key components that caregivers need. First is something called windowed work, breaking the workday into discrete time blocks that can be arranged around caregiving activities. And the second is something called phasing in and out, the ability to scale work intensity up or down as caregiving demands change. I think one caregiver that we spoke to described it perfectly, which is that caregiving time is intense, but it comes and goes. Flexibility is needed to phase in and out of one's caregiving responsibilities. So, what does this look like in practice? A compressed work week that creates longer blocks of time for caregiving, adjustable start and end times that adapt to, say, medical appointments and care schedules. You might have job sharing arrangements during high intensity caregiving periods or part time options when someone needs intensive care. And of course, remote work options where there's location flexibility is something that's also essential. I think the key insight here is that understanding that caregiving isn't constant, it has different rhythms and cycles, ups and downs, and the most effective work policies recognize this reality and will adapt accordingly. On the next slide, we're going to just talk through the desire for what we heard as distinct paid leave possibilities and policies. So the numbers tell the story. 95% of workers want paid leave, but 75% of private sector employees have just simply don't have access to that. So that forces caregivers to have this impossible choice. Do they use their vacation or sick days or personal days for caregiving? That leaves them no time for their own recovery, which we know from everything that Priyanka talked about in terms of health impacts, stress, and need for respite to be really important. So a paid leave policy goes beyond FMLA, the Family Medical and Leave Act, by actually providing some type of compensation, not just job protection. It would cover smaller companies that FMLA doesn't reach, and it would operate as a separate category, like bereavement leave, so it doesn't count against PTO or vacation time. It can include progressive scaling, offering higher wage replacement for lower earners to ensure equity. So an example might be 4 to 6 weeks of paid leave when a parent needs, say, cancer treatment or recovery after a stroke. Companies could start with a pilot program to assess impact and usage patterns and then scale up or down based on results. And this really would directly address some of the core problems where caregivers might be depleting their personal time. It recognizes the dynamic nature of family caregiving, and it also addresses how the current system leaves employees exhausted with no time for their own recovery. The next area that came through, a third strategy, really addresses the critical need that caregivers are really drowning in a sea of unknowns, so much knowledge gaps. They're struggling without any guidance on financial planning or legal requirements. There's Medicare and Medicaid navigation, the need for community resources, understanding really what their rights are as employees. This knowledge gap is so strong that employees are spending work hours researching all of this type of caregiving information, or they're doing it in their evening and just depleting time to rest. The solution is the need for comprehensive workplace education and support. It may start with educational workshops covering caregiving rights, available options, and employer benefits that many employees do not even know exist. Companies will need trained staff who are dedicated to guiding caregivers through these resources, plus offering some availability for one-on-one consultations for personalized financial and legal guidance. Companies are leveraging existing EAP, the Employee Assistance Programming, that expand their scope to include caregiving support and or creating peer learning groups where caregivers can connect and share their own experiences and strategies. So we see that when employers provide this type of education and support upfront, it reduces the work hour research and can increase employee productivity. Priyanka really did outline so much of the financial strain that that caregivers are experiencing. So our fourth strategy really tackles this financial strain. Employees with company child care benefits save an average of $2,700 annually, while elder care benefits provide about $2,900 in savings. And this is really crucial when you think that 40% of Americans cannot even cover an unexpected $400 expense. And we see that models already exist. Priyanka mentioned the Delta Airlines emergency savings. Other companies like Humana, Whole Foods, and Starbucks have also adapted these emergency savings accounts. And the Secure Act 2.0 of 2022 now allows pension-like emergency savings accounts to be integrated within 401k plans. So it makes it easier for employers to implement. There are other support possibilities. They might include caregiving vouchers that employees can use for in-home care, for respite services, or child care or elder care when emergencies arise. There are these employer-matched emergency savings accounts, which we already covered. We also see some companies offering on-site childcare. There may be also care subsidies for backup care, respite care, and professional agencies when regular arrangements might fall through. And companies can just scale these benefits based on size, where a larger company might be able to offer that $1,000 type of emergency savings account, while a smaller company might start with a more modest voucher program. The whole key is just recognizing that even small financial supports can help prevent major workforce disruptions when a caregiving crisis hits. We also see there are a number of technology solutions to streamline caregiving support. There are digital platforms like Care.com, Careloop, Home Thrive, and Wealthy that combine technology support with human expertise. These platforms offer tailored concierge-like services where their experts can customize solutions for each family's unique challenges. The platforms provide digital tools for appointment tracking, medication management, or care coordination. They can connect caregivers with support networks of others who are on similar type of care journeys. They also provide proactive planning to help families prepare for future care needs and transitions before they might hit. So these solutions are known to reduce the time employees spend researching care options during work and can be helpful whether they're supporting an hourly worker or an executive. Now, these implementations require attention to privacy concerns, helping employees self-identify as caregivers, but they're also scalable investment models for companies of all sizes. The next slide, really our final and sixth strategy to foster a supportive company culture. And this is where kind of all the solutions we've discussed come together. Really, culture change starts with leadership modeling their own vulnerability, their own open communication about their caregiving challenges. It requires manager training for caregiver support. Creating support groups for employee caregivers, recognizing caregiving is really a natural part of work life, not an experience that should be hidden. And we've seen that when there is a supportive culture that's combined with the right types of policies and resources, employers can create an environment where caregivers don't have to choose between their families and their careers. Now, this next quote is from the Chief of Staff, Emily Dickens, at the Society of Human Resource Management, or SHRM. I think it really emphasizes what we've seen in our research, the whole role, the criticality of leadership modeling. So when you've got executives and managers being transparent about their own caregiving experiences, it really allows employees to feel safe about their own needs without fear of repercussions or career challenges. Our report also touched upon some policy innovation and current legislation, really trying to examine the broader landscape It reveals the challenges and opportunities for employer action. There's tremendous support for caregiving initiative. It's bipartisan. It's an urgent priority. 82% want federal paid leave. 76% of Americans see caregiving as an urgent priority. But we're now seeing significant challenges that make employer leadership even more critical. We're seeing proposed Medicaid cuts that threaten the long-term care safety net that many families depend upon. We have critical paid leave gaps. Only 13 states plus Washington, D.C. have mandatory programs. They're also very inconsistent across those states. And caregiving disrupts earnings and limits retirement savings participation. So we need to see more of this leadership at the state level. There are also various proposals being discussed in Congress. I'm not going to go through them all, but they include catastrophic long-term care insurance, administrative burden reduction, and expansion of tax advantage savings accounts. The next slide, it really brings together how employers and the aging network organizations can drive meaningful change together. Employers need expertise that the aging network organizations have. Your organizations have 3 critical assets that no HR department can replicate. 1, the deep expertise in navigating Medicare, Medicaid, and long-term care systems. 2, you have established community connections to local aging services that employees need when crises hit. And 3, you have the cultural competency in supporting families through difficult transitions that corporate environments aren't really equipped to handle. So in conclusion, the time to act is now. The research is clear, solutions do exist, and the business case is proven. We can create workplaces where people don't have to choose between caring for loved ones, advancing their careers, and securing their financial future. The Aging Network has the expertise employers need. The timing and conditions for change has never been more aligned. We really hope that our research can support your work in seizing this opportunity. Thank you. And I think we're now moving to Q&A. I'm going to play with my camera too.
Thank you so much, Priyanka and Diane, for these really insightful presentation. I'm going to pull up my, oh dear. Hold on for a second. I actually had it up and now it's gone. I just wanted to lead us in our discussion that's going to be coming up. But, well, in the meantime, while I try to get this up, I'm going to let us go on to Q&A, but I really want to make sure that for those of you listening, you can see how having this information is so helpful for us in the aging community. We know that sometimes we don't know how to link with the business community around this issue. And so we really, really appreciate the fact that you've really, Priyanka and Diane, have given us a strong argument and also strong information that we can use when we're trying to make those collaborations on behalf of this learning community. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Susie, who has can answer. We have some questions that have come up already in our Q&A. Which we can't hear you, Susie, right now.
Oops. Sorry about that. Thank you so much to Diane and Priyanka. It was really nice to see the presentation of the report, which I've, been reading so much, and hearing your insights really reiterates how important this topic is. I'm going to first ask one question using, let me see. Okay, so here's the first question. Employers often face limitations in collecting information about employees' caregiving responsibilities, particularly during the recruitment process. How would you advise companies to address this information gap?
That's really a challenge. I don't know what the legal, you can ask, age and other things during the recruitment process. I have not actually seen anything around whether you can ask people about whether they have children or elder caregiving responsibilities. I would guess that that might be, information that may be off limits in the recruitment process. I think though, like we covered in terms of the executive and kind of leadership modeling, being open about caregiving, their own experiences. It may come up as you discuss some of the caregiving benefits that the employers might offer. I know that's not exactly addressing that information gap, but it's a really good question.
And if I can jump in here,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily related to the recruitment process, but we have had employers mention that they do workforce surveys once people are already on board to really understand what their employees' actual needs are. And some go as far as including that caregiver language as part of their onboarding, their benefits enrollment, and their wellness platforms, really to have that education and awareness piece to help people understand that, oh, I'm not just taking my mom to a doctor's appointment, I am a caregiver. And I can utilize these benefits and support.
Great, thank you so much. We have another question that came through during the presentation. It says, thank you for a great presentation. I'm curious if you know if other companies besides Delta are supporting initiating emergency funds programs. How widespread is this, and do you think other employers might be motivated to build such programs?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned Humana, Whole Foods, and Starbucks as examples. I don't know if the question came in before that. It's not, our part of what we like to do at the Milken Institute is elevate these best practices by companies so that it's more widely known that these exist, and then show some type of way to do that by, in the report, we actually show the details of the different partnership the flow chart and all, which we didn't get into in the presentation. But knowing the folks, I sat with some of the folks from Amazon too, who I think was looking at that. I think they would be very open to sharing, and also Operation Hope with John Hope Bryant, who put this program together for Delta. I would imagine he'd be, willing to talk with companies that might be interested in doing this. Frank, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
You're muted again.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
No, I don't
Donna.
have anything to add.
Donna, this one might be better suited for you, but we have a question of, is there a legal definition of caregiver? And if so, what is that definition?
So legal definition, the definition for caregiver or family caregiver tends to be more policy related or whatever program is defining caregiving. But there are probably legal definitions when it comes to paid family leave policies. There would be something in statute that will define what is a caregiver. So it's going to, and there are like sometimes it'll only list certain relationships like, oh, it has to be a parent or grandparent. Others are more broad and have it as somebody who you choose. So there are different definitions for caregiving, but thanks for that question. So it's very important to know, depending on what program you're using, to understand that definition. But I would say one of the harder things is the self-definition of being a family caregiver, because most people don't use the term caregiver or even care partner, but instead you'll say, hey, that's my mother, that's my father, that's my sibling. So that's usually the definition, but we have to learn to begin to be a caregiver and we are still a parent or some other loved one.
if I might add, I think this is where there's such an opportunity for us as a field to work together. I finally got a chance to, and hope most of you will be able to do this as well, to watch the new caregiving documentary, which is with Bradley Cooper as one of the executive producers. And in the opening, he just goes on and on about his relationship with his dad and how he takes care of him for 8 months after his father was diagnosed with cancer. And then he says, I didn't even know what a caregiver was. I'd never heard that and realized through this experience that that's what I was doing. And so that was his motivation to do this film, which I think is quite timely. And when you have celebrities like Bradley Cooper, we had Patrick Dempsey, the actor from Grey's Anatomy, at our Milken Institute global conference in May, talking about his experience as a caregiver for his mom. I mean, it's just getting the time is now. So we're just excited about all the recognition that people can start thinking about, gee, am I a caregiver?
Thank you so much. And someone in the chat had also shared a definition from the national strategy. I put that in the chat so everyone could see it. We do have 3 more questions, and I'd like to get through these before the time goes. So we have another woman. Thank you for a great presentation and the report. I am a lead for the Working Caregiver Initiative at the Canadian Centre for Caregiving Excellence. One thing we've been trying to quantify are the skills that caregivers bring to the workplace, have that they've developed through the caregiving process. Is this something that your report looked at all, or have you considered working on?
So the short answer is no, our report did not go through this, but I will tell you that one of the exciting things that has come up, because we've had a number of follow-on, whether it be conversations at our global conference, we had a whole 90 minutes dedicated to caregiving, that this very recommendation came up in terms of what are the skills? I mean, if you're a caregiver who's also working, you are developing unbelievable skills that you should be proudly displaying on your LinkedIn profile, and that you would want a situation where employers are seeking out folks who've had that caregiving experience. So how do we create that shift so that it becomes something we proudly wear as opposed to hide in the workplace? I think that's an opportunity. And in fact, we talked to one potential sponsor I did just last week who wants us to kind of figure out how we could lead in this work. So that's a wonderful, I love that you're asking this because it's validation that it is an opportunity for the field.
Perfect. And I think we have time for one more question. Well, we do have 2 questions. I'm just going to say them both in case you can touch on both. If not, we understand the time has gone out. The first is, what do you suggest to increase population awareness for identifying as a caregiver? I think Donna might be pretty good at answering this one as well. As we all know, it can be hard for individuals to identify as a caregiver. And then the question for Milken afterwards, and then we unfortunately have to close the Q&A, is what suggestions of best practices do you have for small businesses, which often have less financial ability and fewer options to cover staff absences?
Diane, I'll let you go on first because I think that's a really excellent question for our to answer.
Yeah, this has come up in a couple times, and it's I don't have an easy answer. I mean, we know that most small and even medium-sized companies don't have the ability to just say, okay, you can take time, you can do the workforce flexibility. I think it has to be on a case-by-case basis. As long as there's empathy and compassion and that desire to accommodate that employee, that's the starting point. But in terms of there is no one size fits all recommendation other than just a recognition here that, it is a challenge for the smaller company to have that flexibility. But hopefully we've made the case that investing in that employee does engender incredible loyalty and appreciation and more financial stability for that caregiving employee.
Great. Thank you so much. And just, in terms of our population of awareness and helping to identify caregivers, um, we know, as you said, it's a normal part of aging. So the more that we talk about the task, the things that we do for our family members, and that we begin to normalize understanding that you can be helping someone with the groceries, you can be helping with medication management, and you're still the daughter, you're still the sister, but you're also this label of caregiver, which doesn't take away from that role. And I think sometimes the reason we don't always self-identify is because we tend to think of the caregiver as somebody who's paid and not what we're doing out of what our individual values. So I think the more that we begin to talk about this as a normal part of what we do, just like childcare, elder care is a normal part of the aging experience. So thank you. I'm going to pull up our last slide. Hopefully this time it will work. And here we go. So let me get the slideshow to work. Great. And you can see, let me just go through. We want to really thank everybody for watching our webinar today. We hope that you enjoyed this, learned from it, and that you will become part of our learning collaborative. We are learning together about the best ways that we can move forward to help with financial security for us as family caregivers. Also, would you please take the time? Everyone will get a copy of the slides, but if you pull out your phone right now, we'd really appreciate it if you would take our survey, which helps us develop our next series of workshops and webinars. So any questions or comments or concerns, you can always reach us at our email, which is cg.security@usc.edu. CG, just remember that stands for caregiver, since we've got to keep using that word. And we really appreciate you taking time today to be with us. Thank you again to Priyanka and Diane, to Susie and Cindy, who helped put this together and move it forward so that we could have this webinar today. Thank you and have a great afternoon.